My cousin incorrectly alleged that I sexually assaulted her. And now my relatives are reaching out after nearly 10 years. I was brought up in what was likely the most typical of typical homes. Parents put in long hours at work but still succeeded in looking after me and my 3 senior sisters. We were never particularly bonded as a unit, but we never encountered any troubles either. The same held true for our broader relatives. They resided a few hours distant, but we gathered during summer vacations or Christmas and always enjoyed great harmony. As we aged, we separated organically, each following our own paths. I'm 31 at present. In 2014, when I was 22 and enrolled in university, I received a telephone call from my mother that inverted my existence. I recall not picking up initially because I was playing video games with buddies, but she dialed again right away. This was an implicit family guideline. If you ring twice in that manner, it's critical, like a fatality level critical. So when she rang again, I stepped aside and responded, only to detect turmoil on the line, like individuals were disputing. When Mum noticed I had picked up, it appeared she shifted to a different room and sealed the door. I merely inquired what was occurring and heard her weeping. My recall of this dialogue is somewhat fuzzy, but she fundamentally questioned if I had anything to admit regarding E is my cousin on Mum's side and is 7 years my junior, 15 at that moment. At that juncture, I hadn't even glimpsed E for numerous years. I simply stated no and sought clarification on the matter. She sobbed even more intensely and began charging me with sexually assaulting E back when we were kids, that E had disclosed everything to my sister and that my sister informed my mother and my aunt. E had reportedly stated that when she was 9 and I was 16, she had been playing in my bedroom when I entered and started touching her beneath her clothing and kissing her. My mother yelled at me to utter something, but I couldn't even vocalize. It was utterly preposterous. I remember pondering it had to be some cruel hoax. The final thing I recall declaring was that it's untrue and that E is fabricating. But then my mum proceeds stating how E provided such a precise account of the location and method. Then she continued inquiring something like, "Did you perform this? Did you perform this?" And I just yelled back at her no every time. It all concluded with my mum placing me on speaker and both my mum and dad stating that they want no further involvement with me and never to reach out to them again. 2 of my sisters messaged me later that day, essentially stating that I'm revolting and then blocked me. I know it's odd, but after that call I went to take an extended shower. To this day I still don't comprehend why I did that. After settling down, I began phoning and messaging everybody, even E. No one responded. The ones who hadn't blocked my number by then rapidly did so. The only feedback I received was from my father, who messaged me to halt contacting them and that they needed to recover. That was 9 years ago, and I haven't communicated with anyone in my family since that day. To say this wrecked me is an understatement. I was existing in a daze for weeks following that and scarcely consumed anything. It didn't assist that this was immediately prior to when I was due to present my bachelor's thesis and was already tense. Fortunately, my co-author detected something was amiss and rescued me by directing the dialogue so that I handled the simpler sections. Without him, I certainly would have flopped. Needless to say, no one attended my graduation. Then commenced the darkest phase of my life. I passed the initial year anticipating police to arrive at my door and detain me for sexual misconduct. I didn't secure any positions, just surviving on my accumulated funds. I consumed alcohol excessively and used oxy. I also became bitter and aggressive. The sole reason I didn't injure anyone is because no one was nearby. My neighbor summoned police once after I had shattered a glass, but I succeeded in persuading the officers that I had simply dropped it, and they departed since there were no others in my flat. Instead of resting, I devoted my nights scheming how I could harm E and ensure no one ever discovered it, even considering actually committing the acts she charged me with, but far more severely. I know I'm not proud of that. I obtained my first genuine employment in my profession in late 2015. Only then did circumstances begin to ameliorate. I channeled all my energy into my work as it provided something routine to engage in. Healing was a gradual journey, but I drank less and grinned more. I lived economically and earned solid income, so I made it a habit to purchase myself a pleasant present for my birthdays, a VR device, a motorbike, Lego sets, etc. And last year I relocated from my rundown flat and acquired a modest home. It was a long-standing aspiration of mine to possess my own garage and a yard to maintain. This has elevated me further. So my existence is acceptable now. I still face challenges. I've been using antidepressants for the past several years, and while they assist, it's not in a joyful manner. They simply eliminate the bleak ideas and substitute them with numb ones. My confidence in others is nearly non-existent. I've attempted romance but only managed 2 dates with 2 separate ladies. It's truly challenging to converse like a regular individual when it counts, and what would I disclose to a prospective partner when she inquired about my relatives? Oh, you know, they charged me with a monstrous offense and we no longer communicate, but I didn't commit it, I promise. My industry is heavily male-oriented, so the sole female I truly interact with is my counselor, whom I admire greatly. A few days ago, I got a message from my mother. It felt surreal and I was terrified to view it initially, so I simply stared at the alert for hours before accessing it. Yesterday, a follow-up message arrived. Translated, they essentially state, "Hi, my name, it's been ages since we communicated, we miss you and wish to learn how you're faring." Here she composes an extended passage about my sisters and how my nieces and nephews are growing large. I didn't even realize I was an uncle. Know that we love you and always will love Mom and Dad. The second message said, "Hi, my name, we comprehend if you don't wish to converse with us after what transpired, but please hear us out. Last month, the topic of you arose at a family assembly. During this, E was minimizing everything that had occurred to her. It became so uncomfortable that she eventually confessed nothing occurred, and that she likely only imagined it. We were all horrified by this. When we last communicated, we aimed to shield E and performed the sole action we believed possible. We recognized that doesn't justify how you were handled. What he did was incorrect and we're all furious with her. We have phoned everyone who knew and revealed the truth. We all desire to communicate with you and your sisters want you to encounter their households. Please reply if you can summon it within you to pardon us, love Mom and Dad." So yeah, that's my circumstance currently. I haven't replied, but they undoubtedly realize I viewed it. Truth be told, I'm fuming. So many old awful recollections are resurfacing. I don't want to pardon them and I wouldn't trust myself in the same space as them presently. Part of me wants to ring my entire family and unload everything upon them to burden them with all I endured until they all reach rock bottom, then devote my existence to rendering my cousin's life as wretched as possible. The other part wants to disregard them and persist with my tolerable life with my motorbike and my garden to accompany me. I don't possess any friends. The only individuals I converse with are my colleagues, but we're not truly intimate. I phoned my therapist's office, but they informed me she's on holiday and won't be reachable for weeks, and I don't want anyone except her, so that leaves online strangers. So please, where to proceed from here? Do I disregard them and maintain the status quo, or do I respond, and if so, what to even compose? I'm fairly certain encountering them face-to-face would be unwise for the foreseeable future, but I'm not even certain how my existence can enhance from resuming those ancient threads. As humiliating as it may seem, I've fantasized about the day when they apologize to them, prostrating themselves and kissing my feet. Messaging seems so underwhelming now. Cousin incorrectly alleged I committed SA. Now my family is reaching out after almost 10 years, part 2. So it's been approximately 3 months since I last shared the prior post, and a fair amount has transpired, some for the better and some for the worse. For one, E remains a massive jerk. Around a week after my family dispatched me the messages, she also contacted with a lengthy apology note. When I received it, I couldn't trust my vision. She was discussing how she had psychological issues and has been managing them for years, almost as a justification for why she did this to me. She said she required assistance and her parents were aiding her obtain it. This appeared like nonsense to me because throughout my life knowing E, she was a glowing, cheerful girl until that fateful day in 2014. The entire note felt like she was merely supplying justifications for why it occurred, and then concluding with the briefest genuine apology. My initial intention was to proceed with my life and attempt to gradually improve it, but viewing this drove me to my breaking point. I had to reply and rip into her with the harshest language I could conjure. In the end, the actual message I sent stated, "You think your psychological issues are severe? Try being ripped away and banished from your entire family for 10 years when you were just in the early stages of your adult life and see how severe those psychological issues become. I am still attempting to cope with all of this, and the last thing I require is the source of my suffering supplying me justifications as to why it transpired. My other kin may have been unaware the whole time, but you knew the entire duration, and it never occurred to you to reveal things earlier. You're fortunate I did not end myself at this stage. My parents and siblings might be a different matter, but I will never be capable of pardoning you for the permanent harm you have inflicted on me and my connections. Please decay in hell and never reach out to me again." She hasn't replied, but I can observe she received the message due to read receipts. Perhaps she heeded the suggestion to not respond. The positive development is that I also replied to my parents, nothing extreme in text, because we truly discussed the entire matter over the telephone. Felt odd hearing their voices anew. I used to associate those voices with feeling secure at home, but after what happened it was an entirely different sensation. At first I despised it. All the bitter recollections flooded back into my mind from the day I last spoke to them. Those voices had been yelling at me for things I didn't even perform. The discussion lasted about 3 to 4 hours, and while it was difficult for me and probably them, it was the most fruitful dialogue I've ever had with them. I expected it would be plenty of justifications just like E, but to my astonishment they not only apologized countless times but informed me everything they were mistaken about. They said it was burdening them all these years, and now that the truth is revealed they don't know how they can exist with themselves. The one truly challenging part was when I inquired why they didn't listen to me or trust their own son compared to a niece. They told me they wrestled with it tremendously, but E had made it so convincing that they felt they had no option. I told them that instead of merely severing ties they should have at least attempted to provide me support, but they offered me nothing to utilize. They said they recognized this, and that was the most painful aspect. After the first year or two they said they desired to contact me and attempt to resolve matters, but they ultimately concluded that me being who I was would not communicate with them and things would simply worsen. That angered me slightly because who cares what kind of person I am? What I truly am is your son, and that takes precedence. At the end we reached the agreement that we will maintain contact. I am not traveling to see them or anything, but it's a beginning. While there is still so much animosity in my heart for them, I feel like things can improve, and that's why I'm somewhat content. Since that phone call we regularly inquire about each other and discussions are gradually returning to what they once were. Maybe I'll see them someday, but I don't know when it will happen or how it will unfold. How am I supposed to embrace and greet the people who expelled me from their life? Cousin incorrectly alleged I committed SA. Now my family is reaching out after almost 10 years. Final part. Hey guys, so I have another update on my entire situation regarding E and the SA. It has been another 4 to 5 months since the last update, and I have some improved news than worse this time again. To begin, a lot of people were advising me to sue or bring East to court. While I concur that what she did was inexcusable and atrocious, I don't feel like that will produce any benefit. The circumstance has been 10 years in development, and I kind of just want it finished and concluded. Taking her to court would expense me thousands in legal costs that I simply can't manage, and I also can't help but consider the fact that he never pursued it in court either. I know that's not a valid justification, but it's just a notion. I am still communicating with my parents, and you won't believe it, but I actually saw them around a week ago. They also have severed ties with E, and I feel like she's receiving the same treatment I experienced is similar to being prosecuted in terms of consequence. Believe me, I would know. Seeing the parents went well. I haven't encountered the rest of my family as I want the procedure to be stepwise, but we gathered and shared a pleasant meal. Of course, in my previous post I said I didn't know how the greeting procedure would proceed. How was I supposed to greet the people who destroyed my ordinary life? Well, the greeting went better than I envisioned. I thought animosity would overpower me, but I actually felt somewhat alleviated when I saw them. Is that odd? Maybe it was the fact that seeing them, maybe my life was returning to the normal it was before, but I don't know. I didn't embrace them until afterward because the discussion we had was pretty grueling. I didn't intend to lash into them, but I felt I had to truly convey the point of how much pain they had inflicted on me. At some point my mother wept because of the detail I delved into about my darkest periods. They said they know they can't do anything to repair what has transpired but want the future to be hopeful. They even suggested the possibility of coming home for Christmas and meeting the rest of the family, but I told them my plan about proceeding slowly and said I might be receptive to the concept. While I am still conflicted, that feeling of hatred is gradually fading, and I'm overall just feeling like an improved individual in general. I think the burden of the situation had dragged me down all those 10 years, and now that I am free of condemnation it feels good. I have also begun dating now and met a wonderful girl that I am starting to slowly become serious with. Life is improving. Who knows what will occur in the next 10 years after this, but for the first time in ages I feel like things are ascending. For all those reading, please utilize my story as an example to your personal issues and resentments. Things do improve even if you have to wait 10 years.